If you're around taller people, you could feel a touch on the short side and vice versa. But it's nothing compared to some of the exceptional people who have made the history books for their genuinely unusual stature. Over the years, the Guinness Book of World Records has honored innumerable people as the tallest and shortest people in the world. But only one man, Mr. Adam Rayner, has ever qualified for both categories in his lifetime. Apart from his remarkable medical condition, very little is known about Adam Rayner's personal life. All that is known about him is that he was born in 1899 in the Austrian city of Graz to parents who were both of normal height. His mother was at 5 feet 4 inches tall, and his father was at 5 feet 6 inches. As he grew older, it became evident that Adam wasn't growing as quickly as most children did, and that he was definitely shorter than average in terms of height. Nevertheless, despite his diminutive size, Adam's parents showed him the affection and support that any mother and father would. Even though he would grow up with equal treatment from his peers, poor Adam's life was not going to be easy. At the age of 16, Adam was significantly shorter than the typical boy his age, standing only 4 feet 6 inches tall. He had barely gained 0.3 inches in height by the time he was 18 years old. Adam was resolved to not let being small stand in the way of his ambitious aspirations, and didn't view his short stature as a drawback. In truth, Adam had attempted to enlist himself in the army when the First World War started in 1914, but was turned down because he was too small and frail. He persisted nevertheless. Adam made the decision to reapply a year later, but this time he received a flat no based solely on his strength and height. Adam was a fairly diminutive 4 feet 8.3 inches when he turned 19. His increased height allowed him to be classified as a dwarf, which is the term used to describe any adult who is under 4 feet 10 inches tall. But little did Adam realize that he would soon soar above the boundaries of what is considered ordinary and into a completely different realm, gianthood, and not only gain the additional 2 inches necessary to be considered average height. He was undoubtedly much shorter than one would anticipate for a youngster his age. But those who had rejected his application to join the army had also taken notice of something else. Adam had unusually huge hands and feet. Adam was already wearing US 10 shoes when he initially tried to enlist, which seemed completely out of scale to the rest of his body. He had grown his feet to a US size 20 in just 3 years. Shaquille O'Neal, an American basketball player, is over 7 feet tall and wears shoes that are size 22, so that should give you some idea of just how big that is. Adam was about the same height during this period, so it probably appeared like he was wearing some terrible clown shoes that were way too big for him. Medical records also revealed that the young man was exceptionally underweight and had difficulty gaining weight readily, which only added to his already odd dimensions. It was expected that Adam Rayner's cartoonishly short stature would be fixed for life when he turned 21, the age when the ordinary person stops growing. But it was at that point when everything changed. As he neared his 20s, Adam suddenly began to grow alarmingly quickly. Over the course of the following 10 or so years, he experienced an unexpected growth spurt. He grew like a beanstalk, going from just under 4 feet 10 inches to a startling 7 feet 1 inch by the time he was 33. Adam has spent his entire life anticipating this moment, yet it came with both a blessing and a curse. At about the same time, he began to have significant spinal curvature, a condition that had first become apparent in 1925 and 1926 and would ultimately prove his undoing. Adam was now regarded as a very tall man, but he didn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. Every medical professional who examined him was astounded by the sudden shift in height and was unable to pinpoint its cause. 2 medical professionals named A. Mandel and F. Windholz ultimately made the decision to attempt to solve this medical puzzle. The two checked Adam between August 25 and May 23, 1931, and discovered he was 7 feet 1 inch tall, with an official standing height of 6 feet 9.5 inches because of the developing curve in his spine. But what had caused this otherwise ordinary man to change in just 10 years from a so-called midget to a towering giant? Adam may have developed a particular type of tumor that resulted in an extreme case of acromegaly. Mandel and Windholz started to speculate. Only 3 out of every million people are thought to develop this rare hormonal condition each year, which affects 50 to 70 people in every million. Acromegaly typically results from an excessive production of the human growth hormone, HGH, by the pituitary gland, a small bean-shaped gland located at the base of your brain. Acromegaly affects hand and foot size in addition to having a significant impact on growth and height, which explains Adam's peculiar proportions before the rest of his body had a chance to catch up. A prominent forehead and jaw added to Adam's towering height, making his face appear longer. In the interim, he had developed broader lips and wider teeth, which are all typical signs of acromegaly. Mandel and Windholz finished their research in 1931 and came to the conclusion that their theory that Rayner's unusual growth was due to a tumor that was causing the body to secrete too much HGH was accurate. Although acromegaly is now easier to handle than it was when Adam Rayner was alive, the illness can still go undiagnosed for some time since the symptoms can take time to manifest. For the same reason, medical professionals think that the prevalence of acromegaly in the general public may be underreported. Although there is no exact definition of what makes someone a giant, it is usually used to refer to persons whose heights are well above average. It's safe to assume Adam Rayner meets the criteria, given that he nearly reached the 8-foot mark before passing away. It wasn't always so simple, but now, so-called giants like these men and women can have effective procedures to attempt and stop the production of the growth hormone. Given that the problematic tumor had been developing inside Adam for more than 10 years, the procedure to remove it was extremely dangerous and had a slim chance of success. The medical professionals made the choice to proceed with the procedure despite the risks. Adam Rayner underwent surgery on December 2, 1930, under the direction of Professor O. Hirsch. Although the tumor had been removed, Adam's troubles were far from done. He returned for a checkup with the doctors several months following the procedure. They were happy to note that his height, which was 6 feet 9.1 inches while standing, had remained the same as when it was measured prior to the procedure, but that his spinal curvature had gotten worse. Due to Adam's rapid growth, his spine began to curve more and more sideways, which was now seriously affecting him. This demonstrated that Adam was indeed still growing, albeit at a much slower rate. Adam's health issues only grew worse as time passed. Adam's eyesight had begun to worsen by the end of the 1920s as he grew older. He was still able to read, but his right eye had practically gone blind. The optic nerves in the eye can be compressed by a pituitary tumor, which accounts for 98% of all cases of acromegaly and is most likely to blame for Rayner's blindness. As if that weren't awful enough, Adam also experienced a decline in hearing and developed a hearing loss in his right ear at the same time. In addition to being seen as a giant everywhere he went, he was also blind on his right side and deaf on his left. It's reasonable to say that nothing seemed to be going well. Adam had been eating normally up until that moment, but he also started to have trouble swallowing his food. Adam's spine bend became so ingrained in his body during his older years that he could no longer walk for large distances. He would eventually become completely immobile and unable to take care of himself. Adam was eventually accepted into an elderly care facility where he could get the assistance he required to perform everyday duties. Even though he now had access to supported living, he passed away on March 4, 1950 in Vienna, Austria at the age of just 51. Adam Rayner was astonishingly tall at the final time he was measured, just before he passed away. Despite the fact that some newspaper stories indicated he was 7 feet 10 inches tall, this is probably because of the bend in his spine. He is the only person in history to have accomplished this amazing achievement, turning into both a dwarf and a giant during the span of one lifetime. Adam Rayner may have been the smallest giant in the world, but his amazing life story just serves to highlight how much of a tribute to the wonders of the human body he is. Adam Rayner, the only man in history who has been both a dwarf and a giant.